I'm joined by a legend of Asian football, Aleksandar Đurić. Thanks for joining me, Alex.
Nice to meet you actually through the Zoom. Yes, thank you.
So we'll start back at the beginning. How did your love for football first start?
Like every child growing up in former Yugoslavia, we all kind of, as kids, always followed the football. Football was a big passion and love in our country. Basically, all of us grew up with a football ball in between kind of legs, like this kind of things is like a first present you can get it from the father or mother or grandfather or grandmother. So it's like very, very much run in our blood in Eastern Europe. And I wasn't different. I grew up in a very small village. And first things is like, I guess in primary school, grade 1, we already start kind of playing on the school fields and playing in between our houses on the street. Basically, football is always my younger age when this is like a small fields. No, really nothing what is fancy today. Our kids play and complaining about if it's a little bit dirty or a little bit more water. We didn't have that complaints. We didn't have a goalpost. I remember we made a goalpost from the woods and just hit it with a few just to keep it, like just to stand on day and nobody complained. We just wanted to play. We did, of course, as a child, you have to follow your father club, which one is we all had it. My childhood team, which one I still follow, is the Red Star Belgrade, and we all in my neighborhood, we all was kind of split between the few biggest club in former Yugoslavia, which one was Red Star Belgrade, Partizan Belgrade, Dinamo Zagreb, and Hajduk Split. And then was a few in Bosnia when I was growing up, was Sarajevo and Željezničar. So we always had those kind of team. We will make the teams and then play football. I remember clear that the best kid who was in our village, he was like a Maradona or Messi or Ronaldo. Everybody wanted him in our team. So he was kind of fighting always in the schools, which boys and the best boys, which team is going to play and how to kind of get him some lollies or something to play for our teams.
And speaking of Bosnia, you actually represented Bosnia at the 1992 Olympics, but not for football, for canoeing. How was that whole experience in the Olympics for you?
I just have to explain you something, but because many people kind of confuse me because they always said, "Oh, we all know you as a professional football player, scoring goals in Southeast Asia." But yeah, not many people knows I was actually Olympian in the different sport. I mean, I was always kind of talented in many sports. To be honest, when I was younger, we didn't have this kind of what is a kind of trend today in our younger generation, that the kids get really fit into the one sport and very young age. We didn't really specialize ourselves in the one sport very young. We all play football, basketball, volleyball. And handball. Handball was a very big in our country too. So those sports was like a major team sport, but we did a lot of another individual sports. So basically myself was always kind of talented for many of those sports. And one of the sports which when I took it was canoeing and kayaking, because I had some, when I was 12 years old, I had some medical issues, and from advice of the doctors, I joined my hometown kayak canoeing the club, just kind of to enjoy, being with my friends there and having some free jerseys and all these things. Which was as a child I didn't really have a chance. So Adidas, it was always good to have Adidas t-shirts and running shoes and shorts. So yeah, I joined. What really didn't think that they will take me that far, but after the joining, I really had a really good guidance of the coaches, good kind of group of the boys and girls, and we kind of push each other, and I start kind of winning the races in the canoeing, and more I winning races, more I was hungry and had a more desire to put a more effort and put a more trainings, and so basically in the end I end up. In younger age, I was kind of bouncing between the studies, of course, and canoeing and football. So football I play for my on my hometown team, just amateurly every weekend. I was probably fittest guy always because kayaking helped me to be fittest guy. I mean, it was training was gym, running, and on the water pedaling for like every day. And so I was a very early junior champion in the country, Yugoslavia, which one was like that time very big country. Then soon after that, I was a senior champion. I went in the few World Cups in junior and World Cups, and then in senior World Cup, and then is like another pathway is basically one of those Olympic Games, and the nearest was coming was 1992. And to be Olympian is basically you don't just say, oh, you're going to be Olympian. Basically, you get like be part of those Olympic qualification, which one is like 4 or 5 years of the heavy trainings and heavy competition. Then you are really see if you can be one of them Olympians. And I can say at the time Yugoslavia is still on, and I was kind of competing very well. I was winning the races, and I was like one of those guys who may go in Olympic Games, but nobody really guarantee. And yeah, but then many things between happened. I was in, of course, in the war, and the war ended up in Yugoslavia. I ran away from the war and ended up in Hungary. And I got a call up from the Bosnia Herzegovina, which one become already independent country. Yugoslavia was disappear in 1992. For the most guys who probably who knows who is from former Yugoslavia, I know there's a lot of them down in Australia. And yeah, I was called up, and my first issues, probably to be honest, was after I got the call up that day, was should I take that opportunity to go to Barcelona, because I knew at the time already that my father and my brother was fighting in that flag, which when I supposed to be going Olympic Games, and it was basically I'm going against my my parents' wishes to go to Olympic game. But I was a sportsman all my life, and I to be honest, I know my dad was for a while. For a while, he was to the end actually was very angry that I left, that went for the Olympic game for Barcelona. But I think I never really regret that what I did. I went to Olympic Games. I compete for Barcelona as the first Olympian in canoeing, and yeah, that's kind of like went into the history.
As you mentioned, because you had that kayaking and canoeing background that made you very fit, do you think that gives you a bit of an edge when it comes to football?
I can say they helped me to, because as an individual sportsman in the canoeing was basically how much effort you put it, that's how much you basically results come out. And I can say that one of the I mentioned before just now, helped me a lot, because I was physically much stronger, and honestly mentally also, because the trainings which I was putting in the canoeing and was so far ahead than football. The football players is like more laid back. They don't really like to run, and and mostly it's the technical. If you have a good ability or skill, you don't really need to be super fit. To be honest, I wasn't never really skillful player. I can say that, and whatever people say, oh, you are a legend, this and that. Nah, I was like just a very hardworking player, very stubborn to to give my best, and never like to lose the games. I could run up and down all day. I was super fit, and I keep my fitness basically until today. Even I retire, I'm still super fit. So I realized that fitness. My coaches before, even when I was even in football or canoeing, they always tell me, you have to be fit. You have to be 100% ready for whatever is race or competition or is a football game. You have to be fit. You don't hide yourself, because whatever you are individual or in a team sport, you have to be to show that you are ready to give your best. So I kept that in all the time in my head. And yeah, it does help me, and especially helped me in the first part of my life as a football player after Olympic game, when I kind of decide to switch from football, from the canoeing to the football, thinking, okay, I'll try to be semi-professional in Hungary and see how far I can go. But it was a tough part, because it's basically it's a different than you are. Suddenly, I did play football, of course, amateurly, but I didn't know when it's a semi-professional, especially some guys who train every day football, and where they position, where they stand when you have a ball, where they do, what they don't have a ball, and how the team work, tactically, and possession. So those things I learned I try to learn as fast as I could by asking the players who playing on my position, or asking my coaches. And difficulties was already in Hungary was basically to asking any question, because I couldn't speak Hungarian, they couldn't speak any English. I couldn't speak that well English that time either. So I was just like by hands, and and in the end I realized I needed to, I always loved to watch the football, and so I going home and I'd be watching the games for all over the world, and trying to learn from TV. I basically self learning how the players move, and world players, and what they do with the ball when they want to receive the ball, how they cross the ball. And of course, sessions training. I stay behind and tried my best, because I thought I will try my best and see if I can get any nice contract, and just to survive and have some money. Not knowing, to be honest, not knowing that this will take me, traveling all the way from Hungary down to Australia, China, go back to Australia, coming to Singapore, and settle myself as one of the top scorer in the country. So, but all these things, I can say there was a lot of luck. I can say there's a lot of luck, but the luck is never really come so easily. I really pay a lot of price in my life, sacrifice a lot of things, and basically deduct my life for the sport. Honestly, I think the sport took in my life, and I don't regret anything. I'm really happy guy what I achieved.
And as you mentioned, you played in Australia. It wasn't actually too long after the 92 Olympics that you found yourself down here. How did the move to Australia first come about?
Was that basically I was just thinking to move into Australia to have a good life, the better life. I was struggling in Hungary because I didn't have any kind of proper travel documents. It was very difficult. Basically, I was a refugee in Hungary, and I thought that Australia is the only opportunity for me. Going into the in Hungary, in Budapest, in Australian embassy for some interview to come into Australia. Probably the biggest help was I was an ex-Olympian, and people who was they kind of really saw some potential as a young boy, coming to Australia and help, maybe build up Australia in the sport or whatever it is. And so, but same time, I got a connection from some of Hungary, my coaches who knew Frank Harok, because he was Hungarian, which one I didn't know. I didn't know. I heard about Frank Harok, of course, as a national coach of Australia, and as a coach down in Australia. And after I realized that he was actually born in Novi Sad, which one was part of Yugoslavia. But by his name and surname, I thought he was Hungarian, because basically my Hungary friends told me that, yeah, we will contact him. And because you go in Melbourne, will be good if you can go and, do some trials. And basically I arrived on the 15th September in 1995 in Melbourne. And a few days later, I called Arok, and he told me, say, look, Alex, come and come. I give you a chance to, because I like the way I heard from my friends that you're a really hardworking player. I heard you are very tall and you can play a few positions. So I went for trial, just thinking, well, I'll just try. If not, I will go and try to study English and get some decent diploma, something to do with my life in Australia. And I remember coming there, it was all the big names on, Trimboli, was Peterson, Anastasiadis, the old generation of the good players, Bucianis, I think there was Alex Kuzmanovic. Later actually then joined us this Alan Davison came, then the Mehmed, this so there's so many. It was like I didn't know the South Melbourne, it was a so big club. And I remember that time was we was training on the Port Melbourne Sharks stadium pitch, because of the Albert Park. The stadium wasn't ready. Bob James Stadium. I'm not sure what they call now, to be honest. I've been there a couple of years ago, but I didn't see the name. It's Lakeside. If I'm not wrong, it's called Lakeside or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, so that first couple of weeks was really tough for me, because I was missing it in Europe. I came into I think September was very cold and winter, and I was traveling quite far to the training every day, but I thought I'll give my shot and then give my best, and to see if any chance I can just be part of the team. I don't know if I really was. I don't know what he saw in me, to be honest. I was shocked when he told me that they will give me the contract and they will sign me after a few months. I remember I was like probably cheapest player in history of the South Melbourne. But I didn't really mean it, because I was just so happy to be part of the team. Even I was mostly in Europe, in Hungary especially. I played in left back and left midfield. I was kind of left legger, and I was kind of running up and down. He thought because I'm so tall and stronger, I can play stopper. I started well. I remember my very good game against Marconi. I remember I was marking this Oratifi, and he was like a 2-meter guy, and yeah, there was a few games, and after that I went down to my form, because I was still struggling. I think, to be honest, I think that time when I came in South Melbourne, it took me a long time to adjust myself, in the weather, timing. It was different. I was always tired, always in, it's kind of like my mind wasn't ready, to be honest, to be there. And I can say sorry for all the fans of the South Melbourne, which when I disappoint them, and Greek, especially Greek, because they're all Greeks, they our supporters, and I didn't really put a good impression on that club. I was moved in a half season to the Port Melbourne, where I already was kind of stabilized myself in the life, and I actually bloom in Port Melbourne Sharks in the Premier League in Victoria, and soon after that I moved to the Gippsland, where the model big Gippsland, when they also Frank Caro came. And then we got a superstar from Europe, Eddie Krnčević, came join us, and there was a really good club and a good team. We had a day in Morwell. Only problem was traveling every day from Melbourne all the way out to Morwell, and but was a fun, and yeah. And after that, I was again some luck. There was some team from China was looking the game we played against in 1996, was I think against Collingwood. Collingwood that time football club had this soccer club also, Collingwood. I think Zoran Matic was that time coach, and yeah, they kind of spotted me. In that time I was playing my position, left midfield, and they spotted some fast young guy, tall, and that was me. And they offered me contract. I took that as at least, and moved to China. Which was like a journey, which was it was crazy. I mean, crazy because going there was, I think, just the first years of the kind of Super League or start of Super League China. There wasn't like what is it today. So anybody who is going to listen to this story, they trust me, I didn't make millions of dollars what those players getting today in Super League, foreigners. But it was good money, and I don't regret that. Also the journey there, I learned a lot. They're playing on the big stadiums with a big crowd and a lot of pressure, and it was a lot of traveling. It was yeah, so it was a good time here. Back to Australia in '98, to West Adelaide. I was with West Adelaide Sharks. That was a good period of time. Murphy Schaefer was my coach, and was Adrian Sandtrak. There was a good time. West Adelaide was a quite good, very good team. I tell you, Adelaide City and West Adelaide is two cities. Highmarsh Stadium was always nice to play. Yeah, I remember my last game was actually the derby game against Adelaide City. We won 1-0. I scored that really beautiful goal against them, and that was my last game before I moved here to Southeast Asia in Singapore.
Now, Australia is a very, very different country to any other country in the world. Before moving down here, what did you know about Australia? And when you come here, was it different to what you expected, or pretty much the same?
To be honest, I knew a little bit, not much, of course. I knew there's a lot of my people from former Yugoslavia moved after the Second War, or moved like a generation as somebody was going down to Australia, leave Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, whatever, Perth, Brisbane, or this cities. and I knew there's a country is huge, geographically very big country, and I know, in fact, that I remember as a child, I mean, young boy, when I was still in Yugoslavia, when the first Australian player came to play for Dinamo Zagreb, which one was Edi Krnčević, and we used to call him a flying kangaroo in our country, because he was tall and he was like unbelievable in the air. He would be scoring goals for Dinamo Zagreb. I remember my dad, when he signed for Dinamo Zagreb, we used to in home, dad will talk to the friends and said, what is this, where the Dinamo Zagreb signing this where the Australians know how to play football, but actually he was really good. And funny things, years and years later, here I am in a Moro Falcos, and the Edi Krnčić coming through the door, signing, coming to play with me, and I was like shocked. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And yeah, there was like just some stories, and I didn't know much about in NSL that time. I heard a lot of stories about all the league, what was it, before NSL, when it was like a lot of these nation clubs, which one was Just and Melbourne, Croatia. I heard a lot of fights and all this. What really shocked me was huge, I'm talking just about my people from ex-Yugoslavia, fortunately, huge nationalism, pride, which one is those people had it down in Australia. I wasn't like that, because I actually ran from those people, from my country, and suddenly I end up in Australia, in South Melbourne. I remember one of the games I played against Melbourne, Croatia. That was one of my first game, kind of first face-to-face with this problem, because, I was named whatever you could kind of imagine, worst names you could kind of get in for 90 minutes. I got that. And really shocked me, because I thought, Australia is like, far ahead of us. But then I guess, this one is go generation. I didn't really like that. And I'm still kind of guy who really respect whatever people who they are and what they are. They can believe in. But that's kind of like a first thing. So then also driving in the wrong side was that was a disaster for me. Took me like I remember first couple of months. I mean, then I got a car, but then this car I used to drive only like after midnight, when it was a very little or zero traffic, and even with that I was struggling with the roundabouts, because we didn't have many roundabouts in Europe. So every roundabout in Melbourne, I remember, was in wrong way, wrong streets. So yeah, there was like it's a lot of challenges, but I loved it. I always love Australia. I mean, it's like there's a big part of my life, and I'm grateful for the Australian. They offer me good life, better life. I come down, and for South Melbourne, I of course never forget to offer me first also contract in being there and play and at least be part of those that very big club. Because they are a really big club, and they are, even today I still follow them in MPL down in Victoria. One of my friends is still coaching there. So yeah, I mean, I'm still in kind of in contact with, when I'm in Melbourne down, and I'm still in contact in most of these ex-players we meet sometimes. I try to be in just, and also, I mean, I'm really proud also to see the A-League. There was always, to be honest, I was always questioned when I came in '95 how this National League is run, because it's run basically by nationalities, by ethnical groups, and I wasn't really. I mean, nothing was bad, because that was a really very good, talented boys playing in that league. To be honest, in my time, if you wanted to really go forward, you really needed this A-League, which one is today really marketingly run very well. Clubs is much more professional, players is really professional. My time, players was only few of us who was really professional. The rest was part-timers. But the games were still good. I mean, I can say the skill of the games was really well. Maybe the fitness wasn't that big part of that time, but watching the games and watching some of those players was amazing, skillful players.
And you're currently living in Singapore. It's where you spent the largest part of your career in. So what was it that made you want to move to Singapore in the first place?
Well, I can say this because I can mention I wrote a book, my life journey book, and I never really ever think that I will be being in Singapore for this long. Basically, after my small village where I was born and lived most of my life, this is the second part of my life. I lived here in Singapore. I arrived here in 1999 after my last game against West Adelaide, and that was like just also happened because the West Adelaide went into the liquidation. We didn't have money to even go further in the league, and my only chance was to go somewhere to play. And there was a club from Singapore was offer me contract and to play. And I thought, okay, I'll come here for 1 year and see what next will bring. Not thinking that that year will become 22 years later and playing more than 500 games and scoring 380 goals, and even end up to play 3-time goal scorer, 3 times player of the year, win nine titles in the league, and also play for the national team. So it's like, if somebody told me 99, here I arrived here in Singapore and that I'll achieve all these things, I'll say, nah, you're crazy, because no chance, because I'll not have a time, because to do all these things, you really have a time. I was coming in when I was 29, 30 years old, and to achieve all these things, you need to be in the early 20s. But I did enjoy every moment playing here. There was, of course, league wasn't nothing. I mean, first earlier part was really tough because was a lot of good foreign players, and it was for me it was tough first couple of months to just adjust to the hot weather, humidity, smaller stadiums, just to adjust yourself and leaving here. But when I did that, the rest was history, because I just wanted to show how good I can be. And of course, again, I sacrificed everything. I wasn't, I still believe here there's a lot of improvement in the football sense for the younger generation, because they don't see the football as a big profession. And that's the problem, because Singapore is very small city country, and his education is very big part. And of course and the football is still, we are trying to build up on that. And so my early part was really, I was not just playing for football in here, but I also trying to promote the football in the community in Singapore. And it's quite weird, because walking today in Singapore, everybody basically know me, which is nice to be recognized. But I also want to be recognized as trying to promote and trying to bring the football in this country in a higher level. Which one was sometimes is going up and down. Like football is like that. Whatever country we're talking about is going up and down. You get a good generation of the players, and then you are really flying in the league and the national teams. And then you get a not so good generation. Then you are really bit struggle. At the moment we are struggle. Hopefully we'll produce some younger players who can show full potential in the future. I played for the 5 clubs, basically, and for a couple of years in each. And yeah, it was good. And I tell you, I break all the records in the sense of the goals. As an older player, I played super old. And to be honest, I could play even longer, because people who listen, they will say, oh, well, this guy played very late. I was 44, but I can tell you, when I was 44, I still ran the bip test 15, level 15, which one is incredibly good. If anybody who knows the fitness, they will know what I'm talking about. So I don't regret. I mean, I didn't regret anything, to be honest. It was just a little bit more pressure. You're getting older, you have more pressure, because you really need to show that you are playing well, because people start mentioning your age and thinking, this guy is finished. But when you score 30, 40 goals and in your age, 37, 38, then they nothing to say, because basically only they said, wow, this guy is a phenomenal,
And speaking of age, at age 37, you actually made your debut for the Singapore national team. So what was that moment like when you first put on the jersey and first represented the team?
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Few moments in my life, really never forget, like Olympic moments, born of my kids, and that moment also taking the jersey and playing for the national team of Singapore. And there was actually World Cup qualifier against Tajikistan, some of the Russian Republic, former Russian Republic, and they. I was called up, and to be honest, I supposed to be sit on the bench. And it was a funny story about behind that. I supposed to sit on the bench because I talked to the national coach. I told him, I said, look, I'll come and help you, whatever is minutes you give me, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, no problem. I'll sit on the bench and let the boys to play because, I was 37 already. Even on that year in 2007, I was top scorer, best player, and I scored 44 goals in the league and cup together. So I was like flying that year. And the game was just, we finished the league and cup. So it was basically just nice. I was like really relaxed. And the night before that game, last training before the game, on the next day, the striker who was supposed to start it, he pulled the hamstring, and the coach come to me and said, look, Alex, well, tomorrow you start. I thought, okay, never mind, another pressure for myself to, because people was already talking about, my age and why we need him in, we have a younger strikers. So I went into the game really under huge pressure. But I remember I felt sorry after actually for these Tajikistan players because I was so pumped and so happy to be there in the field. I was running everywhere. I mean, I scored 2 goals. We won 2-0. I hit, I think, three post. I tell you, I could score like a 5-6 goal. I was running everywhere. So the press of this Tajikistan, remember our return game in the Tajikistan, basically they only talk about me because they couldn't believe to see the guy who's 37 running everywhere. The Tajikistan young players can't even catch him. But that was my first game. So it was like, yeah. And after that, when I debut for the national team, I thought I will, play for the next couple of maybe games, maybe 10 games, 15 games, 1 year, maximum 2 years. Because that time I also never really think when I'm going to retire, but not knowing that actually I'll go all the way until 5 years later, in 42 years old, I played final against Thailand, the competition they call Suzuki Cup, and which one is basically regionally here, it's Southeast Asia, very big competition, huge. Whereas the big countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, play against each other, for this prestige Suzuki Cup. And it's like, as much people can talk is, it's a never probably heard the tournament, but I can tell you is every stadium is 100,000 people in, 100,000 people in and 100,000 people outside waiting to, if they can somehow jump in into watch games. And it was amazing. It's amazing atmosphere. You go in Jakarta, and you have 100,000 people and can't even come close. Or you go Malaysia in Bukit Jalil, 100,000, no chance to come closer to the stadium. So those competition was, neighborhood countries here in Southeast Asia, as much, as a huge rivalry between in football. And before that tournament, I already kind of announced in the news, in the press, that this is my last year in the national team. I was really had enough. I thought it's time, because I was ready. I mean, I could play, but I thought. And the first game against Malaysia, I scored goal. So I basically break another record, because as the oldest player scored on this competition in age 42. And even we going into that competition, I remember in 2012, not many people here in Singapore really believed that we'll even pass group stage, because our group stage was really killer. Because first of all, Malaysia was host. We had Indonesia in our group, and it was us, and I'm not sure it was a Cambodia, I think, was a 4th team, and it was really tough. Malaysia and Indonesia is always kind of powerful in the football. But even we won a few times many years back this Suzuki Cup. So we went in that kind of like outsiders. We finished on top of the group. We went in a quarterfinal. We can't remember. I know in semi-final we play Philippines. And then we went to the final against Thailand. And Thailand was always, if you look at the Southeast Asia, I think Thailand, especially now Vietnam, is like a really big in the football nations. And it was really tough. We won in Singapore 3-1, and then we went in Thailand and we drew. And it was it's like a really nice saying goodbye to the national team after 54 games playing for national team and scoring 27 goals.
And anyone who's been watching at this point would not be surprised to hear that you've got a lot of good football stories. You've actually written a book. How was it writing a book? How hard was it to just put those stories into words for you?
I never really wanted to write a book. My stories, if anybody ever get a chance to read the book, my book is, it's very little about football, to be honest. It's as much as front pages myself and with the football ball, but it's very little about football. It's most about growing up in this small village and how I grew up as a child, what challenges I had as a child, and how sport helped me, to achieve something in my life. Not just bring me glory in a life, but also to shape my life, shape me as a person who I am today, and how I was growing up. And I think a lot of this, especially I tell my kids, because I'm a father of four, and I tell them to really take the sport, whatever is professional or amateurs, to have in their life, because it's a really good tool to learn some really good life values, which one we really need in this crazy world, living in these social medias and a lot of these things which one so my friend told me, Alex, you really need to write a book, and publisher came and offered me a contract, and took me nearly 2 years. I actually, to be honest, I didn't write the book. I had this ghostwriter who is on the cover of my book, Irish man, who was basically follow me, and it was a lot of tough moments and sad moments, some happy moments, when I was growing up, losing for example, was some part of in book when I lost my half family in one day in the war. My mom was killed, and my brothers and sisters, so it's like, and then it was some happy moments, and it was like up and down, and a lot of memories was there. And his book is really written how I want to be written, to just very easily to understand for the people, especially for the people who is from Europe. They will really understand situation which one I went through in a life. And yeah, it's like, and then in the end, book was published in 2016 February. I published it here in Singapore. It was a best-selling book in the country, and to be honest, I'm proud now of the book, because I know the people who read my book, they always say this amazing this story which one could be made in the movie. So so I'm really grateful that in the end I wrote the book. At least maybe somebody will find that as a motivational in own life if they read that book.
And now, 5 years after the book's been published, is there anything looking back that you wish that you could have put in the book? Something that was left out that you're just thinking, man, I wish I told this story.
There was a few untold stories, which one is like, I wish maybe I would write, but I'll probably keep it for myself. But I think the most what I wrote there is like really, really good life stories, something which one we all go face in some point of their life, whatever we are child or up in adults. So it's a lot of challenges we always face in a daily basis, and I wasn't different. I'm proud what I really did in my life, and bringing having good family. My kids is now in Australia. They live in Melbourne. They are study there, so honestly I miss them, because I didn't see them for 2 years now because of this COVID situation, and it's really challenging.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Alex. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.